please like and subscribe.
Hello, collective. Welcome to your reading. All right. I don't know if you guys can feel this or sense this, but I can certainly feel the shifting of the energies. There's been a breaking point. There's been some sort of a breaking point. They're showing me like the energies of warfare, the energies of conflict, tension, opposition, direct squares on the planet, and the breaking of, oh my gosh, okay, okay, how do you expect me to bring this into the reading? Okay, there's a message that wants to come in before I even begin the reading. For those of you that can resonate with shamanic energy and sovereignty and with taking responsibility for the energy that you bring into your life, that you bring into the world, that you bring into your selves, into ourselves, the message they're asking to bring in is regarding light, light and darkness, which is like positive and negative. Light, according to photons. So when people talk about a happy ending or a happy life or peace on earth and all these things, these are virtues that we reach for, that we strive for, not really understanding what we're asking for. So one of the lessons that's coming in is you cannot have light without dark. And when you are creating light, when you are consciously creating light, you're also not aware that somewhere on the planet, there has to be balance. We live in a dual universe. We chose this universe because of its relation to duality and because of the level of growth that we will experience in the short time that we walk upon this earth. So life is not what we think it is. It is not what the movies say, or not all the movies, but it's not what all the drama movies say or all the soap operas and all that other bullshit. Okay, not to say the drama is not a part of it. Okay, yes, we're going to experience drama. But we're not here to just get a job and live our lives and pay the bills and, try to survive. I know that's what life seems like is what it can become in our perceptions as we're going to work and having to pay the bills and having to live within monetary and social systems on the planet, and how that can take over our entire perspectives. But the real truth of why we are here is to understand the relation and our relationship to light and to the dark. So when we are consciously creating light, we're unknowingly creating darkness somewhere on the planet. And this was proven. This was proven with the splitting of the light photon 2003 or 2005 or something like that. Maybe it was even earlier than that. Could have been even earlier than that. But anyway, what happened was scientists were able to split a photon of light. They flew one photon and they put them into sealed vacuums. One half of the photon went into one sealed vacuum, contained vacuum, and another photon went into another sealed and contained vacuum. Very tiny compartments of space, very tiny. And these vacuums were then split across the planet. One was sent to CERN, and the other was sent, I believe, to UBC. I believe these are the two biggest photon colliders, particle colliders on the planet. That may be different now. I could be wrong, so don't quote me on that. But at the time, they were. And so what they found was when one group of scientists at CERN took one of the photons, neither of them, they were both neutral. They didn't have a positive or a negative charge on either photon. And they discovered on one side of the planet and CERN, when they applied a positive charge to the photon, the other photon on the opposite side of the planet at the same time became its opposite. The same was true when they reversed this. They took other photons and they were able to make one photon negative. And at the same time, across the planet, the other photon became its opposite. So this is what we're doing when we are consciously creating joy and happiness and all these things. That's a great thing. I'm not saying don't create it. You know, that's what this lesson, and it speaks also in concordance and in alignment with the Tibetan Book of the Dead, in that we are not meant to polarize to the left or to the right. We are, like the Buddha said, the middle path is the way of wisdom. So staying in the middle path means you have the power of both. You have the power of both while choosing none. Let me repeat that. You have the power of both polarities while choosing neither. Okay, and this is the work of where we are being called, where many of us are being called. You know, just because the Creator speaks of the word, speaks of the consciousness of the masters, you know, this is not an illusory thing. The Creator is getting you, is asking humanity to imagine the master within you and to feel into that experience. For those of you that are ready to, for those of you that have a kernel of a desire to, that's there for a reason. There are many people that are too ashamed, they're too bogged down with shame, fear, cynicism, pessimism, anger. You know, they're still too very dense. When we get into mastery and the possibility of mastery, we have to release some of the psychic lead, and that takes work. So, okay, here I am, almost 10 minutes into the reading, and I haven't even started. Okay, Creator. Holy smoke. Okay, I was not expecting that to come in. I had been feeling this message bubble up in me about the two halves of the photon, and when you apply one, you are creating its opposite at the same time without even being aware of it. This is the way that the light works, and consciousness is light. Okay, the whole body is more than what we think it is. We're not just here to get a job and pay our bills and blah, blah, blah. You know, this is also why I have just recently added to my channel the 4-week guidance package. Okay, it's for those that are ready to access and connect to more of their own inner magic. I think that many people that come into shamanism experience a certain sort of spiritual crisis to which there is no cure except to begin your path. Okay, here we go. And it's all the path. Okay. Ooh, what is this? Jealousy. Okay, what a way to start. Happy Monday, jealousy. You know, okay, what I'm first hearing is, oh my gosh, the Creator, yes, definitely speaking to higher dimensions of humanity. You know, with you, this is not a competition, but for somebody else, this is a competition. I feel like somebody is very jealous, intimidated, envious of your capacity for the higher dimensions. Liminal. and jealous of your capacity to enter into the liminal space, the space of change. It's the bardo that the Tibetan Book of the Dead speaks of. And maybe this was a measure of your jealousy. You know, maybe, okay, for some of you, I'm feeling that you were born watching others, like, okay, how do I say this? If you were a healer, a born healer, you probably were not born already knowing and easily adaptable to the physical life. Like some people, I mean, that was me growing up and just not really being here. I was like in other dimensions. I was always, oh my gosh, I can't even remember how many times I got my ass kicked just for daydreaming. And these are probably in situations when, you know, there could be possible danger about. So the ass kicking was out of love and out of concern, you know. But this is like, that's what I mean. Like I wasn't always aware of my surroundings or tuned into what was going on the physical domain, because I was operating and listening, leaning into another dimension, leaning in and listening to other dimensions that weren't seen and heard by the people around me. And if they were, they weren't seen and heard, period. And so maybe you were also jealous of other people around you that were very grounded in the physical dimension, that were not yet couldn't hear the other dimensions that you could lean in and listen to. You know, so there may have been an era of jealousy. Maybe, oh my gosh, okay, they're just showing me a pair of scissors. You know, the crisscross of a pair of scissors when they're open, and then when they're closed, they're both aligned. But when they're open, they're not aligned. Interesting. That's an interesting message in itself. Because when you align the two sides of the scissors, when they align, there could be a cutting away of things that are ready to be cut away. You know, and you'll know what those are more than I will. Okay. So that's what I'm seeing with this jealousy is a pair of scissors. One side of the scissors is you and the other side of the scissors is somebody else. And you're both standing on you're standing on a spiritual domain, spiritual foundation, and the other is standing on the physical. You know, they're jealous of your connection to the liminal space, and you maybe have been jealous of their capacity to get straight A's in school and show up every day and have part of the team spirit and whatever, this team spirit of the office now or whatever the hell it is. And, you know, they're just so grounded and plugged into their physical world, where you're struggling just to even get your teeth brushed, you know, and struggling to meet the physical demands of our physical lives. You know, and I've heard that's very common of healers. You know, that's why they call ADHD. That's a very crude catch-all phrase for a dimension of the psyche of which we don't yet understand. Okay? It's also homo noeticus, multi-dimensional human beings that are trying to still be here on the planet while they are in multiple dimensions elsewhere. Okay, and there you go. All right, so what's the rest of this message? This is going to be a 2-tier transference. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Otherworldly. What am I just saying? And I'm feeling you're able to, your connection, okay, it's ending with this. This is the beginning of a new era, because I'm feeling like you're letting go of your jealousy to the physical world. Is I'm feeling like you have a new understanding of yourself. overall, the whole picture, you're having a clear understanding of yourself and the other person. See, I'm feeling like for most of your life, you made the physical domain the highest, like competing with others or jealous of others that maybe, how do I say this, creator, had better connection and better control over their lives than what you felt you had. And now that you are in a different, a higher capacity, you have a higher perspective, a higher capacity of perspective now. Your sight, you can see farther. It's like being up on a plane and or being up on a mountaintop, and you're able to see farther across the horizon than you can when you're standing on the ground. So I'm feeling like you're on a mountaintop and you can see farther, you can see clearer. And you're seeing that the people that are really delved in, not all, let's make this clear. Not everybody that is committed to the physical domain and masters at the physical domain. Some of them have arrived from where you are. Okay, and that's why they now stand with a foot in both worlds and have the mastery of both. Then there are others that can't hear the liminal spaces, can't hear the other worlds. They can't hear them. This physical world is all they have. And you're kind of like seeing them in a new light where you thought they were masters. You thought they knew what you knew, and they don't. And you're realizing, holy shit, I've been misjudging you the whole time. Projecting yourself onto them. Because you do have a connection with other worlds. You do have a connection with transference. This is what I was talking about archetypes. Transference of energy, of universal archetypes, is no laughing matter. It can turn your life upside down. Okay, Caroline Myss talks about this, and she says, not only Caroline Myss, but even shamans talk about this, about when great big spirit enters into your body. Before you're physically ready for it, before you're psychically ready for it. When are you ready for something like that? How do you prepare for something like that? You know, oftentimes it'll throw the body out of whack, right out of whack, with conditions that are undiagnosable. No one will know what the hell's going on, but spirit knows and your body knows. Trust your body. And then your body will morph out of shape, will morph out of its current condition and expand into something that is unrecognizable to you, even if this is in the psychic field or the astral field. Physically, you will experience this. Your body may look the same to like everybody else, but on the inner realm to you, it'll be a very different experience, but it will come back. It's like stretching an elastic band. That elastic band will constrict again, but now you are containing a whole bunch of new information that you can now contain and continue taking on because you've been able to expand yourself. Something has happened, and that's what I'm seeing with you. You're being aware that your life has been expanding you and contracting, expanding you, taking on new psychic energy, constricting. Now you can release this psychic energy, new ideas, new understandings, even if it's crumb by crumb. And oftentimes it is crumb by crumb. That's, you know, we have to be careful with this work. Even the masters in India, was it Krishna Das? One of them said, you have to be careful with this work. Doing this work too fast, they say you have to be careful with this work because you are literally handling sticks of nitroglycerin. Like, not literally, but I'll say like psychic nitroglycerin. And if you lay on too much, it can all go up. blow your life apart, and that's what transference is about. Some of it will blow apart anyway because of the transference of energy, archetypal energy, universal living forces entering into your psyche and into your life, because they're coming online. They are appointed to, they are designed to. It is time, it's now. And you won't feel ready for it. Okay. But you are taking on the consciousness of new worlds, new dimensions coming into your life. And one last one, please. Oh, powerless. Okay. Okay. Holy smoke, that's huge energy. So we've got evocation, omniscience, guardian, occult, communication. Oh my gosh. Anguish. Okay, that makes sense. And voice at the end. Oh my gosh. Oh. Yeah, so, okay, the Creator's saying, finish your initial statement about wanting peace on earth. So when we talk about the light photon, when we create peace, and we are consciously trying to create light with peace, we are unconsciously creating its opposite. So it's not about peace. It's not about war. It's not about happiness. It's not, love is a very... People think love would be on one side of that spectrum. Oh, we would be like in the light. Really? Really? Think about that. Because some love is very challenging. It'll push us into dimensions that will make us fight and claw and scream and be not happy with where we are being asked to now tread with our energies. Okay, growth is very real. It may not look like you're going through much by the people around you as they look at your physical body and everything looks like it's unchanging, but on the inside, it's like you're standing in the middle of a cyclone. Okay, so yeah, somebody is jealous, I'm feeling, of your capacity of evocation. Now, evocation, I believe, is conjuring up an emotion. Yeah, the act of bringing or recalling a feeling, a memory, or an image to the conscious mind. So something within you is being resurrected within you that you are consciously activating, resurrecting. And I'm feeling this is like, oh, I just heard the neutralizer. It's a neutralizer within you, and that is the shaman. The shaman is the neutralizer. Shamans do not polarize to the left or to the right. They stay right in the middle. They understand both sides of the feather. The shaman stays in the core of the feather. But they've lived on either side of that feather. They know the path well. They've lived it. Okay, Creator, here we go. So I'm feeling like you're letting go of jealousy. You're entering into, you're diving in, you're committing. Holy, you're committing. Not only are you committing, but your process is in agreement with you, and things are beginning to unfold within you. Acceleration. There's an acceleration here of growth. So you've let go of jealousy. You're heading into the liminal space of change, inner change, while things are collapsing around you. Everything is like carry out there on the planet. It's like intense. You just have to look at the politics and the media. But you are not paying attention to that. You're not anchoring your spirit in the politics. Yeah, you're aware of the politics, but you're not anchoring your spirit there. Yeah, I see a very wise person that is aware of the physical conditions. Or the physical world is the final caboose. It's the last caboose. So you're just aware of the conditions of basically humanity, the dimensions, the different dimensions of humanity. And politics is just one tiny corner of that, okay? But you are not anchoring into politics. You're anchoring into, like I say, the core of the feather. More deeply ascending into your life, coming into the higher dimensions of your life. Very much, holy smoke. As you stand in the middle of the feather, you are aware of the vulnerability and influence of both sides of the feather. So just because you are right in the middle, you have access to both. You have access to both. It's like you're in the command center for the first time, or not maybe the first time, but here you are in the command center. This is not, you are not stranger to this area. Maybe it's like the seat of the soul. You know, the seat of the soul, the seat of your soul. And the transference of energy from within you, because you're tapping into more of your shamanic knowing, your healer. You know, these are universal, these are archetypes. Shaman, teacher, healer, they're even saying builder. These are all archetypes. These are all universal living forces that enter our lives. When great big spirit enters you, okay? And it's otherworldly. We're tapping into other dimensions, other hidden dimensions. And it's like you are a snake shedding your skin. This snake is an ancient symbol. It's like the Ouroboros. This snake that devours itself. It's like the phoenix that lives its life and then bursts into flames, into destruction, and then is reborn out of the ashes again. It's a never-ending process. It's a never-ending process. So I'm feeling like you're entering into like the powerlessness. It's like, okay, holy smoke, they're showing me like a ship held by the gravity of the mothership. A ship, this is the mothership, and the little ship that is now being pulled in to the mothership. Okay, that's it. Holy smoke, that's powerful. So there is a process that is bringing you home. It is a gravity because it is the transference of this universal energy. Holy smoke, this is not going to be for everybody. But this is why the spirit has been... I've had some requests in my channel for some personal guidance, and I know there's going to be more, and spirit is saying it's time. So I have created a 4-week shamanic guidance package. You can see all the details on my website. Okay. go. And the cards are ready. Oh, wow. This is... Yes, holy smoke. And what's on the bottom of the deck is temperance. For the first row is temperance. Okay, so somebody was aware of your magician energy. And while you were jealous of other people's their capacity to physically commit to this world, to the physical world, and they were able to like get straight A's at school and get the perfect job, and they just seem to have all the luck, everything, you know, and here you are struggling. I'm feeling like you were at odds with your magician energy. You were not clear, and this is like in the past, okay? So you weren't clear about who you are. You were still aspiring to and comparing yourself to other people that were not that were much more physical and physical, much more inclined to their physical capabilities. But it didn't last long. It lasted for as long as it lasted. It was a cycle of angst that you were in, and it didn't last long. Because what was waiting for you was the liminal space. You weren't going to shift out of that and land in some solid identity and physical experience. You were entering into more of the same, but at a deeper level. Something mysterious was going on in your life, a very mysterious process now. And it gave you joy. It gave you satisfaction. I'm feeling the satisfaction was in the movement. In the movement of energy. Within the liminal space, there's a measure of ascension going on. Climbing into higher dimensions and perceptions, working your way upward, understanding more, take it, like I said, being stretched like an elastic band, taking on more of the inner dimension, more of the higher dimensions. Your Queen of Wands in reverse. I'm feeling like this is like, yes, laying hold of your jealousy, laying hold of your jealousy. Sorry about that. I said, blow my nose. Expanding beyond your Queen of Wands, your jealousy, expanding beyond your senses of insecurities because of the people you were jealous of. So you were insecure of like, and this makes sense that Queen of Wands in reverse is like a person that is in touch with their feminine magician, but they don't trust it. They wish they had the same car as the other person, or the same house, or the same boyfriend. Not understanding that these are contracts of which you didn't understand. It wasn't just some physical thing. There was much more going on, many other dimensions relative to these contracts than what you had originally thought. Okay. But something within your ascension allowing you to expand beyond your jealousy. But in order to do that, you had to take a look at it. You had to take a look at your own insecurities, your own jealousies, your own senses of selfishness, of protecting yourself. When you were playing very small, these are dimensions of yourself that protected you while you were keeping yourself small and safe, because you didn't feel like you measured up to whoever you were looking at in the physical world that you were jealous of, that you were threatened of, because they seemed like they were more successful than you, had more money than you, had more capabilities than you, had more friends than you, had more... You know what I'm saying? Like, it's... Oh God, okay, okay. So you expanding beyond these aspects of yourself and life stretching you. It's like you've taken on answered opportunities, said yes to opportunities that were expanding opportunities, new experiences, new knowledge. That has allowed you to expand and see things differently now that you're holding newer energies. But there's been a challenge, or a challenge even that you didn't take. It's like a closing door. It's a challenge that you're not taking, or a challenge that you felt like you always had to. Holy smoke, Creator, okay. That's it. You're realizing you no longer taking on a specific challenge anymore. Okay, it's like, oh, okay, how do I say this? Okay, Creator, they're saying use your experience, Joanne, use yourself as an experience. Okay, I was brought up in my life, my earlier life was a life of like living under the not, I wasn't aware of this, but I was living in the unconscious blueprint of genocide. And what that meant is I had two different psychologies at war in me, and only one was allowed to win. And the one that was allowed to win, it was like cowboys and Indians fighting inside of me. And because I was raised by Anglo-Saxons, you can bet your ass that the Indian was not going to win in me. So I always had to defeat this part of myself. I always had to break this part of myself down, not knowing that this was the true part of myself. This was the real part of myself. Then I have to go, and fix it, go into counseling, go into some sort of, do some sort of work that then rebuild this part of myself, to only be met with another challenge that would require me to kick the shit out of myself and self-destruct all over again. And I spent most of my life kicking the shit out of my life and destroying it, and then rebuilding it, and then destroying it and rebuilding it. And I didn't realize this was a result of genocide. This was a result of patriarchy. This was a result of colonization. That many people are stuck in this. Like I said to my adoptive family, you were colonized before I was. So what part of yourself have you self-destructed and had to rebuild over and over and over again? Because this wasn't just in my life. My life is just what made it. I guess in my life is what made it visible. And I guess it's visible in all of our lives. I was just aware of my own, and I thought everybody else had it all together, not realizing that they were stuck in the same thing. They were victims of ignorance just as much as I was. Well, the same thing is going on in your life, but in a different, it may not be genocide, but it'll be something else, some sort of a collective entity, a collective spirit that you're all plugged into, that has affected you and the group in destructive ways. Okay, and that you're realizing the influence of what this has taught you. Just this experience of these challenges of being torn down and rebuilding yourself up again, that you don't have to, you're speaking and influencing people from a part of yourself that emerged out of this, how do I say, this light with light and dark, destruction and rebuilding, destruction and rebirth. Yes, this is like, oh God. Because what they're showing me is a lighthouse. What they're showing me is the destruction and the rebirth. The destruction and the rebirth is like a lighthouse. It's the heartbeat. The heart has to release the blood while it's bringing in new blood. There's a death and rebirth in every heartbeat. It's the same thing. The universe, BC, the hertz of BC, the hertz is 60 hertz, which means this light is turning on and off 60 times a second, but it's so fast. So there's a light and dark going on 60 times every second. The same thing with the sun. The sun turns on and off, but it's so fast. All the stars do. Everything is oscillating and has its own hertz. What would be, let's just check that out. Let's just check it out. What is the hertz of the sun? If that even is a thing. Okay, so it's 340 trillion hertz. So 340 trillion times a second, the sun is turning on and off. Like, can we even comprehend that? How does that even happen? How does that even happen? So the sun does have a hertz. It is 340 trillion hertz. So 340 trillion times. BC is just 60 hertz. Okay, this is 340 trillion oscillations per second. So you can never get away from the light and dark, where the sun itself is turning on and off 340 trillion times a second. Okay, you can never get away from it. Okay, and that's what I mean within that's just our physical experience of the sun. Okay, that's our physical experience of the sun, and most of us don't even know that even exists because it's so fast we can't even see it. The sun's light looks constant. Okay, that's what I mean. Okay, so this influence now of the light and dark is what has birthed you. There's a new essence of you that has come out of the light and dark of destruction and rebirth, death and rebirth that has been going on in your life. It's like an archetypal living force that was and it's an archetypal living force that lives all over the planet, even in politics. Okay, most people are too gross to see it. They're too entrenched in physical perspective to see anything that has spiritual significance, shamanic significance. Okay, but you're understanding who you are now in this energy. this is such a powerful reading. Holy smoke, I'm really blown away. So your influence from this liminal place of light and dark is what you communicate. It is a spirit and an essence within your understanding that you communicate through your communication that is not even communicated even necessarily verbally, but it is communicated in some way through your actions, through your life. You know, it's like what the Gandhi said, my vision is my life. My life is my lesson. My life is my message. So looking at Gandhi's life, you know, there's been a lot of new information rising up about Gandhi. You know, some people think that he may, I've heard experiences that people have read about him how he challenged himself, like less ways that were not as lying in bed next to young girls, and he was totally naked in order to, and I don't know if these are true or not, I have no idea, but you know what, it makes sense that this information is coming up now, because we are entering in over the threshold, the cosmic and psychic threshold within all of us of both and. So yes, we are. What does the Christ say? You will be as harmless as a serpent. You will be as wise as serpents, but harmless as a dove. That's both and. Because wisdom requires action. Knowledge is knowledge. Knowledge is knowledge. It's one thing to know things. It's another thing to experience them. That was when it becomes wisdom. So you will be as wise as serpents. So you know what that means is we're going to know the worst of ourselves while we are in the presence of the best of ourselves. That's it. That's it. You know, when he lied in bed next to these girls, it was to tempt himself and to only exercise, I guess, the higher dimensions of himself while be tempted. And I don't know if this is true or not. Who knows? You know, everybody has their own ways of understanding liminal space, choosing to stay right in the middle while in the midst of whatever. Okay? But the transference of energy that you are now gaining the capacity of, you know, very fierce, very courageous, very skillful. You're very fierce, courageous, and skillful, and actively in service of spirit. And as your life enters into the otherworldly, your life is like at the altar. Your life is the altar. It's on the altar. You are the altar. There's this transformation going on. A transformation going on. Some sort of, you know, with your life at the altar comes alteration. You know, some people enter into these aspects with psychedelics. Many shamans do also. Those that have a contract with these little beings, with this technology. Psychedelics is a form of a technology. Language is a form of technology. Okay? So is magic, so is faith, so is science. Like, come on. You know? So, yes, and being in an altered state of consciousness is being at a state at the altar. Can you hear what I'm saying? You know, okay, they're asking me to tell this story. Oh, I was speaking to a person. This person used to be a part of my life. They no longer are. And they didn't agree with the use of psychedelics. And this person had shared their experience. They were, I guess, out in nature, and they were under the influence, I think, of psilocybin, which is some magic mushrooms. Yes. And I did like 5 grams of mushrooms. See, my adoptive mother always tried to honor my path with the shamanism too. She tried, even though she did, and she really tried to honor this in herself too. We've recently started talking again. It's been really, really good. So like I said, both and dimensions of both and, even for me too. Oh, okay. So, and I did these 5 grams of mushrooms in one of her houses that she owned. It was a safe spot for me. I was all alone, and it was an experience that changed my life. It absolutely changed my life. And so anyway, I shared this experience, and this person I was speaking to shared their experience. You know, my experience, I had an actual conversation with these beings. I was like, this was an experience that shifted my consciousness forever. But this person told me that their experience, they were met with shame. They were met with, you don't need to be doing mushrooms. Like, could you imagine like being on a substance that you consciously took and then feeling ashamed about it and not being able to make room for yourself in the state that you're in? Like, oh, that would be an awful experience. And this person was trying to shame me about it because of their experience. And I had to point out to this person, look at the differences of our experience. Look at the experience I had, where my experience was open. The mushroom consciousness was open to me. We talked, we experienced. It was inviting, it was inclusive. It was all inclusive. Oh my God. Like, it was, I did ask though, I don't want to see things crawling out of the walls and like shit like that. I said, be gentle with me. I said, okay. Whereas this person did not have that kind of an experience. This person was not, the mushroom was not open to them. They were told what their shame was telling them. Their consciousness had about being, they, you know, like they were not received. And I remember how they responded to my question. And all I said is like, look at the differences of our experiences though. And just that made them look at it, and I felt their own consciousness shift, but they didn't say anything. They didn't have to. I could feel it, you know. So that's what I mean. There are people who are not ready for psychedelics and probably shouldn't even take it, because it's a technology that you have to be ready for or have a relationship with, like an open mind. Okay. So you going into liminal spaces, your jealousy and your incapacity to align with your magician energy. Something happened in your life where you had to evocate, you had to recall your magician energy, you had to recall something within you by making a judgment. I feel like the shaman, the healer, the magician energy, some sort of higher dimensional energy was calling you, and you were going through maybe a series of crises. And I think you knew this. I think you had a sense that this is what is going on. And as long as I continue to live out of alignment with myself, it's just only going to get harder and harder and harder. So I'm feeling like you had to make a judgment call, and it shifted everything. It's sent you into liminal space, not overnight, but I'm feeling like the next action, the big action that impacted your life, was entering into liminal space, and I'm feeling a sense of relief about it. You've been waiting for this. I'm feeling for a long time. This liminal space opened you up to a much more open perspective, a much more heightened perspective. Like I said, you're standing at the top of a mountain, and you can see much farther than you could when you were standing on the ground. So you have a much more, and this allows you to move ahead responsibly, efficiently with your energy. And methodical, allowing to move through very dense energy. This allows you to move through very dense energy. Okay, because of your omniscience. You don't get trapped in the dense energy, but you're aware that it's part of the walk. There's no spiritually bypassing this. You had to walk through this. And you were able to reach higher dimensions within yourself because of your commitment to look at the dense energy that the Knight of Pentacles energy was bringing you to. The Knight of Pentacles energy can be very, very dense. It can be very dull, very heavy, very laborious, like you're trudging the trenches, but you're succeeding. You're succeeding, but it's still trudging the trenches. It's still very laborious, very dense, very hard, but you're doing it. And your hard work is ascending you, bringing you your process through these insecure and parts of yourself that were formerly very, very jealous of the physical world, of you, because you didn't feel like you measured up, or that you had what was required to be successful in the physical world. This begins to shift now. And you enter into a guardian space. You're entering into a guardian space because you're shifting the work within yourself, within insecurity, jealousy, selfishness, even revengeful, your capacity or maybe tendency to dominate others. Maybe I'm speaking to a fixed sign. It's not that you mean to dominate others. It's because your sun sign is in a fixed energy. So the cosmos kind of dominates you, and you're a capacity to transcend that through coming into some very light energy, some very, very open energy. Okay, so doing a lot of processing through the inner work that you are doing, accessing some much very larger energies within your own psyche, around you, your connection to it, to some deep energies within you, very open and vast energies within the deepest part of you. And this is what is allowing you to shift the energies of the shadowy, more dense part of your psyche of jealousy, insecurity, selfishness, bringing you into guardian energy. You are one hell of a force to be reckoned with. This is why the unresolved relationships of your past often will not come to resolve, because of where you are. Because people will know, Okay, they're giving me a scripture from the Old Testament. This was of a medium. He was a prophet. His name was Nathan. And he was blind. In his later years, he had gone blind. His eyes were just tired. And he saw with different eyes, though. And he was sitting at home, and somebody for Saul, I think it was Saul, before King David had been elected to become king, Saul wanted to be king. And I think Saul had sent, and I could be wrong, so don't quote me on this, but somebody sent a person to Nathan the prophet, and they were in disguise. They knew that Nathan's eyes were not clear. And so they came in disguise on behalf of Saul, even though they were really on behalf of somebody else or something like that. But they were coming with deceptive intentions in disguise. And before they even got to his house, the Creator spoke to Nathan and told him, this person's coming to your door. They're dressed up as a certain being, and they're not going to be honest. So this is how you are to respond. So that's what I'm seeing here. This is why the people of the past won't come, because you are like the Nathan. You're very aware of people's games, their bullshit, their masks. You have the discernment of spirits. You have the discernment of spirits, and they frickin' well know it. They know it. You can see inside of them. You can see dimensions of them that they can't even see, and that makes them incredibly uncomfortable. Whoever you're dealing with. Oh my gosh. Okay, so it's on the bottom of the deck here. The King of Swords. So I feel like you are a master of communication. That's for sure. And when I say master, don't get ideas in your head about the Christ and the Buddha. We're never going to reach that finish line, and we don't care. Okay? It's not what this is about. So for those of you that when I say master, or even like ascended master, I'm speaking to the highest point of you. I'm not speaking to some model we have of these beings that we cannot connect to. Otherwise, what's the point? Do you hear what I'm saying? For those of you that can connect with a mastery within you, great. I'm not speaking to a modern day Christ that's going to quit their job and roam the streets and talk, it's not what I'm talking about. And talk about God and try to recruit everybody into heaven. That's not what I'm saying. Okay? When I say ascended master or even master, people are often confronted with their own models that they project onto me and think that's what I'm saying. Okay? So just be aware you're going to be confronted with your own ideas about it. Okay? Okay. Or even confronted with your own impassable ideas about it. Okay? Because the only one that makes these dimensions unreachable is us. So you're the fact that you have the discernment of spirits because of the challenges you have gone through with the light and the dark, the death and the rebirth, the death and the rebirth, the death and the rebirth. And it's like there was an essence within you that was emerging out of the many deaths and rebirths of your life, of your psyche, of your experience. And this is the true that stands. despite of all the death and rebirth going on underneath you and in the past and still yet to come in the future, this is the part of you that does not die. This is the part of you that is aware, the unchanging part of you that is aware of all the changes you go through. But this part of you is the inner observer that does not change. Okay? It's not the experiencer. It's the observer, the deepest part of your being that is true, that you are now anchored into. For some of you, I feel like you do some sort of meditation. There's some sort of meditation here that allows you to connect with the silence, with the darkness of the consciousness. Okay, so whatever you've gone through, you're one hell of a force to be reckoned with. You carry a lot of experience in you because of the deaths and rebirths that you've gone to. And it's bringing you back into the occult, into the hidden realms within you, the occult. And it's not what, there's a certain level of grieving here. Because you bought into, in the past, the world's idea of the occult, even Christianity's idea, and the fundamental religious people's perspective of what the occult is. It's evil, it's demonic, it's Satanism. No, it's the feminine nature of God. The masculine nature of God. Look at the sex organs of a human being or of any animal, any mammal, I'll say. Okay, or an animal, I guess, because we're all animals too. The sex organs of a man are outside of him. You can see them. Okay, they're outside of his body. They're visible, they're tangible, they're there. The sex organs of a female are not on the outside of the body. They're inside of her body. They're hidden. The external dimensions of God are the church, charity, even war. Okay? There's a season for everything under the sun, and these are all the manifestations of God. But what about the manifestations of the goddess? You take a look at art. You go to any art museum, yes, it's a physical manifestation, but what dimension does it speak to when you look at it? How a person looks at a piece of art and the exchange going on, the artist knows. Anybody that looks at their art, their relationship to that art is between that viewer and God. And it has nothing to do with the artist. Every artist knows that, and they have to let go of that. They have to let go of the relationship, the outcome, because that outcome happens on an inner dimension. Even when you listen to music, even looking at this tarot reading, okay? Holy smoke, okay, we're like an hour and 10 minutes in. Okay, so there's a grieving going on because your past, maybe the time you felt like you were wasted, but you totally didn't. There's also a grieving going on because of what you were consciously letting go of within yourself. What used to be solid and true and physical and real is now, it's not what you thought it was. The world is not what you think it was. There is a grieving going on, a grieving of energy, because there is a transference coming in of shamanism, healer, some sort of a magician energy. One of my teachers, they teach that the shamans are now, there's more people getting into their magician energy, which connects them into shamanism within their own lives in the modern world. Okay, so that's very true. Very courageous energy. The communication that you bring in is going to help people release themselves from a hell realm, from a state of confusion. It's going to help people through their own rebirths, people that have reached the end of something. And they may be stuck in a realm of vitriol. They may be stuck in some sort of inability to move forward, not knowing what the next step is. And your relationship with them will help people move in to otherworldly aspects where their lives, because your life was on the altar, your life is an altar. And you're realizing that, what do you think the earth is? It's an altar. But many people don't know that. And they certainly haven't expanded into that understanding, into that higher dimension. That's a much higher dimension. Okay? At the altar, some sort of, there's an erosion in circumstance, some sort of, because you're entering into another world. Whoever you're going to be dealing with too, you've already gone through this. Your communication has already, the forms of communication with spirit, with yourself, with your teachers, with whoever you were dealing with, has already released you from a hell realm, your own inner vitriol. And I feel you're going to be helping others do the very, very same. Entering into the otherworldly and letting go of anguish, having a victory over anguish, that there's nothing wrong. This is more of the path. This is more of the path. People think that they have fallen off the path because it's not all spiritual. It's not all, you get high when you're meditating and get high in the higher dimensions and you want to stay there. But we always have to come back down. And they think they fucked up or they failed or whatever. It's like, no, this is more of the path. There's no, when you realize, when you get so high and so, not even high, when you become so conscious, you realize there's nowhere to fall to. You're not falling. This is just more of the path. It's got nothing to do with failure or success. It has to do with what you're willing to be conscious of. Can you hear what I am saying? Okay? So you're going to have victory over a previous understanding of what you thought the spiritual path is. Making room for the mundane. The mundane is not a failure. I remember reading a quote somewhere where he said, meditation is not about entering into some airy-fairy higher state of bliss, eternal bliss, because that would eventually become a friggin' hell realm too. Okay? It means entering into the mundane, more committed to the mundane, to the smaller moments, and being clear about them. And this too. That's what this is all about. Okay? And this, having victory over the anguish of the mundane moments, the anguish of the quiet moments that go on inside of you, the harder moments, the quiet, harder moments that happen inside of you that no one sees except you. You and spirit see them. And this brings you into more of the transformation, because like I said, there's a part of you that is dissolving, that is eroding. A part of you that's not going to have the same and in order to move forward, they're asking you also to become aware of your relationship to power. And I'm feeling like for some of you anyway, you've had a relationship with powerlessness. Like you were scared of power or you were ashamed of being powerful. Okay. So that's, and I'm feeling like that is shifting as you're entering into a relationship with yourself and understanding that having a relationship with yourself is inescapably about power. It's about sovereignty. It's about authenticity, which reconnects you to your voice. But there is some fear. There's some fear. There's some apprehension. You know, this is a major change. This is a major change. And you're going to go up and down in fear. I'm feeling like this is going to be this, and then it's going to be this, and then it's going to be this, and then it's going to be this. And that's normal. That's normal. It's like a lighthouse, the on-off of the dimension of God. That's what God is. You know, who is it? Another teacher of mine. I'm not going to say their names because these are part of my mystery school. But they said God is an acronym for generate, order, and destroy. That is an eternal process of God. Generating order. Once you generate order and fulfill a contract, it dissolves. Now comes in a new contract that you now fulfill that contract, and that also dissolves. Generate order. You have to bring yourself into alignment. Every time you generate order, whatever contract's in is going to require a new alignment. Now a new alignment. Now a new fulfilling. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's what this is. And all of this is to develop your authentic voice. This is beautiful. Okay, I'm not going to pull an angelic or a demonic this time. We're going to end this here for the sake of time. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this reading. You guys are powerfully on your way. Powerfully. Keep going straight. Keep going forward. Keep being true to yourself. Answering the inner calls. Answering the calls of spirit and the calls of your soul. All right, you guys, you take care, and I'll see you in the next reading. Alrighty.